These past few months, we've been hard at work restoring this flooded quarry in the northeast of Portugal. Our goal here is to use all of this water to create a variety of habitats, which will help improve the conditions for local wildlife. And we've been busy creating a lot of new areas and features that are already transforming this place for the better. And in this video, I'm really excited to show you how we redirected water to form a whole new lake, flooded some new lands near the main channel, and created half a dozen or so rare Mediterranean temporary ponds, which are now full of life. And as I go around showing you all these features we've built, I'll also be checking in on the wildlife that has moved in, and putting my very amateur wildlife photography skills to the test.
So this quarry is quite the maze, and it's really hard to come up with a concise way of explaining this to you. But I think if we focus on this upper area of the quarry where we have started our work, it might be possible to explain what's happening here with the water.
Now, before I start the tour, I think it's useful to recap the timeline for this project. The property has been dedicated to rewilding since 2021, when it changed ownership and was put under the management of our good friends at Rewilding Portugal. At the time, we visited the area and thought the opportunity was amazing, so we decided to get properly involved about a year later. After getting the project management plan in place, we started conducting some eDNA surveys to understand what species are present in the area, by filtering the water and then checking what kinds of DNA got stuck in the filters. Then the Earth movement started in the fall, and we have two objectives that we want to achieve with this work. The first one is to increase the size and variety of the flooded area, which essentially means we are expanding this rare aquatic habitat with different depths of water. And the second one is that we are able to hold water here for longer during the drier seasons, which means the area can support more wildlife year-round. The creative brain behind all of these Earth movements is Pedro, who runs Rewilding Portugal. And I must say that in this first area we are working on, he came up with some really original ideas that brought some fast results, which I'm really excited to show you. So now, let's follow the water.
Starting with this barrier here. This is one of the barriers that we've built here, and you'll be better able to see it from the drone. But essentially what it does is it stops the water from running right through there, and instead it starts accumulating here. And it accumulates and goes back all the way there.
This first set of barriers are blocking the water coming from this side, and preventing it from going straight through the system. Instead, we're taking it on a big detour to suit our purposes. The water here is running slowly through this wide channel, creating some shallow water pools. Later in the season, these will become temporary ponds, but more on those in a bit. As you can see, we had to block quite a few channels, but bear in mind that these were not natural channels. Well, none of this is, which is why we feel it's okay to work on this area to maximize its potential. The blocked water then flows into our first properly flooded area.
Okay, so the next biggest barrier that we have is the last one that we showed you in that drone sequence, and it's this one right here, and it's essentially the cork that is plugging the gap, which allows the creation of the lake back there. So you can see the water would normally flow through this narrow bit here all the way down there, and by stopping the flow of water there, we're essentially able to create this lake, and which will be temporary, as we mentioned, and allow the flooding of this area. And it also means that the water has to go all the way around so that it gets retained in the system for longer.
This lake is the first major feature we created, and it's worth diving in a bit deeper. Here in these shots Tiago took in November last year, you can clearly see the area that we have now flooded. It used to be mostly dry, and all of this water used to run through a narrow channel there. But now we have blocked its course, and it has accumulated to create this small lake that is about knee deep, and is connected to the bigger, deeper lake in the back there. Now, of course, in November this area was dry. We did not bring about the winter rain, but we did help it accumulate here by blocking its path. So this flooding is a product of our work. And naturally, after it flooded, some plants and animals took advantage of this unique opportunity.
So I've decided to come and take a closer look at this temporary lake that we've created here. And I must say it is a bit of a strange experience because I'm walking in here barefoot and it is quite slimy, and I've seen a few critters lurking in between all these plants here. But above all, it's really cool to see that change has come about rather fast. 1 month ago this area was completely dry, and now we have these aquatic plants here, as well as a variety of animals that are already using this area.
I was able to stick a GoPro in the water for a closer look, and I found this little guy who initially was quite nervous, but then relaxed to my presence a bit. This is a European pond turtle, a near-threatened species that has a great time in this wetland, eating animal matter and plants. Then we also have these beautiful aquatic plants, which create what looks like miniature underwater forests, and on the surface they produce these lovely white flowers, which is why they're known locally as borboleta d'água, which means water butterfly. A really appropriate name for this charming little plant. Well, at least that is how we identified it. We're currently in talks with aquatic plant experts to help us out and to properly evaluate the area and consider any potential reintroductions. We also caught glimpses of other wildlife, but they were too fast for our camera skills, which is of course where the eDNA comes in handy. It allows you to detect species which are very hard to see and survey for. We purchased and conducted eDNA tests for both vertebrates and invertebrates to see what is living in the area, and we found DNA for at least 204 species, with varying degrees of certainty. These results are super interesting and useful for us, and I was initially going to include a breakdown in this video, but while writing it, I realized there's a lot to tell you here. So for now, if you're a member, you should be able to read Tiago's summary of the results and the implications for our work in the update section of your account, where you can also download the actual files with the full report. And then in a few days, we will be releasing an in-depth dive here on YouTube on how eDNA testing works and all the interesting stuff that we found lurking beneath the surface. Okay, so back to the flooding now. These deeper lakes here already existed, but they flowed through this narrow channel in the middle, which we decided to block as well. You're probably starting to see the pattern here. It's all about blocking the water's path. So after the water was blocked by these two channels, it was forced to go all the way around through this area here, which we're leaving untouched because it's already really diverse.
And here finally, once the water has gone round one last time, we actually finally let it through this gap here. So then it can flow, and we try to control a lot of this flow to go towards the area that will create these small temporary ponds. But a lot of the water is also simply escaping back slowly into this main area which was flooded already. So I'm following along the little channel that leads the water to the ponds, and as you can see, it's quite dry now. It essentially used to have water flowing through here when the water level was at its highest, right after the rain. And that's also what allows the creation of these temporary ponds. So essentially, when the water comes, it stays there for a little while, and then it creates this perfect habitat for amphibians to reproduce in. This is where we've been finding a lot of frogs enjoying and having a great time in the sun, and without being afraid of predators, except being afraid of us as we're trying to film them. But broadly speaking, they feel really safe here, and it's a really good place for them to reproduce.
Me and Tom are at best amateur wildlife filmmakers, and you'd think that filming a frog in a pond would be an appropriate challenge for us because it's one of the lowest levels of difficulty. But these little buggers jumped each time we got anywhere near a pond. It was before we could even see them, let alone film them. That is, until we found my favorite animal in this wetland, superstar frog, with its relaxed demeanor and desire for the limelight.
I've never been so happy to find a frog in a pond.
I must say that we initially thought that this was a frog with below average intelligence. But when you really think about it, letting us film it was a really smart move. Nice wildlife shots mean better videos, which means we can reach more people and find more members to fund this work, which eventually expands the frog's habitat. Now that is a smart frog right there. And I must say it was lovely to spend time with our new green friend, which eventually led us to a few more of its cousins. These are Iberian water frogs, and one of at least 4 species of amphibian that live here and take advantage of this opportunity. The ponds are a safe haven against the invasive predatory fish that live in some of the lakes, and that is the magic of these small temporary ecosystems we've created here. Space for amphibians to do their thing in the spring and secure the next generation without being bothered by carp or other fish. Of course, they could still be scooped up by one of these grey herons that have started to return to nest here in the spring. But that is the whole point. More space for frogs to reproduce is great for the frogs, but also for all the other species that depend on them. It's another lever that allows us to boost the biodiversity in this quarry. And as usual, we fund all of this work through our community, through our Mossy Earth members who contribute small amounts each month to allow us to set up these kinds of rewilding projects. If you're curious about helping us do this, then be sure to check out our other videos and of course our website where you can sign up. You can find it by typing mossy.earth or through the link in the description and in the pinned comment down below. I think it's fun, but above all really impactful, and you get to see what your money does through the updates in your account and in videos just like this one. And if that's too much of a commitment for now, then subscribing, liking and commenting is a great way to support us as well, and I really mean that. Now let's check out the final area we've restored. My wildlife photography skills must have improved through the filming of our superstar frog, because as we were going to film this final area, I was able to film this beauty in flight. I thought this might be a faded pincer-tailed dragonfly, which is an endangered European species, but my ID skills are not so sharp. If there are any experts watching this, please let me know in the comments what you think it might be.
So this here is the next obstacle for the water, and it's the barrier that you saw Rui build yesterday with the digger. And essentially what it does is it tries to stop that water over there from running essentially along the course that it has, because it was quite narrow and quite deep. So this barrier stops it. It used to also have those pipes to allow the water to run through, so we've removed them. And now that this barrier is here, this water is essentially starting to accumulate. And as it accumulates over the next few weeks, it will slowly start to have to go around, once again flooding a much bigger area before it's actually able to rejoin the rest of the water over there. And while this might look a little bit temporary right now, and these do tend to break when there's a lot of rainfall, it will, after a bit of time, start solidifying more and more. And we are going to plant trees over them to essentially add to their resilience. So they should become a permanent feature, and it will really allow for this whole area to be flooded.
We built 2 of these barriers, and the second one down here is the one which allows for the flooding of this area. It's also the one which broke during the heavy rains, but as I mentioned, this problem will be reduced with time as the features become more permanent. Now remember, this is just the start of this project. There is a lot more to come in other areas. We've budgeted around 36,000 euros so far for this project, which includes the machinery use, the water passages, the eDNA both now and later, and the staff of course. And those resources should go a long way to transform this quarry into a thriving wetland. As the day was coming to an end, we finally had some action in the air, when a pair of storks showed up and started doing this beautiful dance, but well, you know my wildlife camera skills aren't that good, and I can't believe I missed this moment here. They were also followed by a few vultures, which are ever present in this region. And after all of this action, I decided to wrap up with some more filming of the beautiful borboleta d'água in the lake, to fully enjoy our new creation.
I'm really happy with this lake and the progress that this project has made, and I hope this was an interesting update for you. So if you'd like to follow along and see how we continue transforming this area and how this project progresses, the best that you can do is to subscribe to our channel here on YouTube, and you'll be seeing a lot more of these updates. And if you'd like to fund this kind of work, this and other rewilding projects that we do, then the best that you can do is to head over to mossy.earth to learn all about our rewilding membership. Until next time, cheers!